What's up guys, it's Enderman103 coming to you with the first video in a very long time, and this will be the first part in a series debuting Project 39. I will go into little detail about this variant, but it's Axis and Allies in 1939. It was born from Project 1936, which kind of failed as a project or as an idea, but it gave birth to this, and it's been years in the making. Literally been working on the process of the map for over 2 years now. But I kind of wanted to do a playthrough of this first version of the final map, pretty much, and I will be doing a round by round, or turn by turn, not sure yet, depends on how long these videos are, or these turns are. And I will be using the rules, of course, for this variant, so hopefully you'll see some of that as the playthrough goes on. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with Germany's first turn. So it is 1939 September. Germany is invading Poland, and they are at war with Poland, the United Kingdom, and France. After the UK and France gave an ultimatum to Germany, they did not listen, decided to invade Poland. That is what they are doing now. So in this variant, Germany has to capture pretty much every Allied capital or a certain number of victory points that are on the map. Both of which are incredibly difficult tasks for them. They're definitely the ones that have the disadvantage or are going to be up against the ropes in terms of victory conditions. And there's 3 alliances. There's the Axis, the Allies, and the Comintern, each of which have their own victory conditions, and the Axis by far are going to be the ones that are most up against the ropes, and the Allies are going to have the easiest time because the Allies pretty much just have to hold out until the game ends, which is in 13 turns, or in, I believe that's either late 1945 or early 1946, once America basically pulls the trump card and says, hey, we have nukes. So, Germany starts out with $32. They'll spend 31 of it on 3 infantry, 1 factory, 1 airbase. And you can see things are a little bit messy. I already chipped out all their movements here, except for a couple non-combat moves, because that would have been even more messy. But we'll start with invading Poland. So here in Frankfurt, Pomerania, I split the forces into semi-even groups here. And let me see if I can give you a slightly better angle there. So we've got our 5 infantry, 2 mechs, 1 artillery, 2 tanks, and then 1 infantry, 1 artillery, 2 mechs, 2 tanks. And they'll be splitting into these 2 Polish territories. So we'll start by going into West Prussia. We've got 5 infantry, 2 mechs, 1 artillery, 2 tanks, and that'll be assisted by 1 tank from East Prussia. And then going into Upper Silesia, we'll be bringing 1 infantry from the same Frankfurt Pomerania, 2 tanks, and again all these little arrows are making things a lot messy here. Then they need to be 1 artillery and the 2 remaining mechs, and then 4 infantry and 1 artillery from Bohemia are going to be supporting that in Upper Silesia. And we're also going to try to take Stanislavov, and we're going to try to do this because it's an extra buck, and that would take it out of the hands of Russia, who also gets to invade Poland on their first turn. And any money we can take from Russia is going to be a huge benefit in the long run. So we're going to be taking the 2 infantry from Slovakia, the 1 tank that's in Bohemia, and then we're going to bring our strategic bomber from Brandenburg, 1, 2, 3, and since that landed or took off from an airbase, it'll have 4 movements remaining to land on non-combat. And the Polish start with a cruiser in the same sea zone as us, so we're just going to initiate that battle instead of moving out and doing an amphibious assault somewhere else. We're just going to go ahead and attack that. So we have a couple neutrals that we're invading here, and that would be Denmark and the Netherlands. So for Denmark, we're just going to send these 3 infantry from Schleswig-Mecklenburg up there by themselves. Hopefully they can knock out that one guy. And then into the Netherlands, we're going to be sending the 2 gentlemen from Lower Saxony and the 1 fighter from the Rhineland, who's moving from an airbase, so he'll have 4 movements left. Okay, and then the last of our land movements, which is really going into the sea, will be our Air Force. So the remainder of the Luftwaffe will be going into Sea Zone 11 to take out the main British Navy. So they'll be going 1, 2, 3. And they'll have 2 movements left because they are taking off from an airbase. Same with our fighters, they will join. And then we got our submarines to move. So Sea Zone 15, the sub will go to Sea Zone 12 to try to take out that destroyer and transport. And then everything else will be attacking the main British fleets here. So we've got the sub in Sea Zone 4. We'll pick up the sub in Sea Zone 9. They will be attacking that fleet in Sea Zone 11. And then the remaining 3 submarines are going to press their luck against the fleet in Sea Zone 10. So that'll be 3 subs versus a destroyer, cruiser, battleship. They're going to lose, because in this variant, cruisers and battleships both have 2 HP. So those subs are for sure doomed, but we need to, as the Germans, do as much damage to the British fleet as possible in the early game, because if they are allowed to hold on to that just as any other Axis and Allies variant, it really is going to come back to haunt us. So I'll go ahead and roll all of these, and we will see what happens. Okay, so things went reasonably well for Germany here. They took all of the Polish territories with no losses. Poland didn't roll a single hit out of 8 dice. Total rolled at 2. Oh, and you know what? I didn't roll this sea battle up here, so I'll go ahead and roll that real quick. We got a 3 and a 4 for Germany. That. And that's 1 hit, 3 for Poland. Miss. Cruisers have 2 HP, so another 3 and a 4 for Germany. Miss. 3 for Poland. Miss. 3 and a 4 for Germany. A hit, and a 3 for Poland. And a hit. So, Germany will be damaging their cruiser. And Poland will lose their cruiser. Okay. So yeah, Germany didn't lose any land units at all. We got no responsive hits from Poland. They also took both Denmark and the Netherlands, each of which they lost 1 infantry in. So both the Denmark and the Netherlands infantry each got their hit that they needed, or that they could have gotten. So that was good rolling for the neutral territories. However, invading 2 countries increases world tension by 2, which is going to be money later on for the US and the UK, because democracies don't like invasions. Now over here in the sea, things went very, very poorly for Germany. So the UK decided to scramble their 3 fighters down to Sea Zone 11. And of course, since Germany didn't bring the bulk of their navy down to this battle, that pretty much solved it. Germany got 1 hit on their first roll out of 8 dice, and the UK responded with 5 hits on the first roll. So the UK took out both the German battleships and 3 German fighters. And then over here, the German submarines were able to sink the destroyer, damage the cruiser battleship, which for three submarines attacking a cruiser battleship destroyer is a pretty dang good outcome. And then the lone submarine, NC Zone 12, did end up taking out the destroyer and transport. So that was fortunate because that is the UK's only transport in the Atlantic to start the game. So, now to non-combat for Germany, since these tactical bombers have 2 movements left and they're in NC Zone 11. They will be going 1, 2, and landing in Schleswig-Mecklenburg. Move that out of the way. And then the fighter in the Netherlands will be going to the Rhineland. And we've got some shuffling here. So the infantry in Bavaria will go to Baden. The infantry in Bohemia will go to Bavaria. And then the infantry in Austria will also go to Baden. And then this one mech in Slovakia is going to move into Hungary. And that will activate Hungary. Hungary is pro-Axis. So we'll get a roundel. We'll replace this fella. And that'll be an extra $2 for Germany. Putting them up to 39. Nearly 40, not quite. I think their national objectives will get them there. And then Germany has their 11 units in Brandenburg there to split up. So we're going to be moving 5 of them. Actually, you know what? We did sink the UK transport, so now we don't have to worry about an amphibious assault coming in Lower Saxony or Schleswig-Mecklenburg, or Denmark, or the Netherlands for that matter. And that is a big concern for Germany on their first turn, is the UK having that transport and the ability to navally invade. Because Germany starts off very powerfully on the eastern front here, going into Poland, but they're very out of position to defend themselves on the western side. So these 11 infantry, placing these 11 infantry is really important, and I think staging for the invasion of France is very important at this point. So what we'll do is, in preparation for the UK probably building some transports, we'll chip this 5 out. And we'll go ahead and, that's 5 there. So we'll go ahead and move this 5 down here like we did. And we'll go ahead and throw 3 more from that other stack down to join them. And then these other 3 will come up here into Schleswig-Mecklenburg. That'll also help us use these transports for some amphibious assaults, probably into Norway. Norway has a victory point that we want. Or to activate Finland, since Finland starts the game pro-Axis. So that would be another benefit for the Germans. And that is it for Germany's movements. So let me scroll down on my computer here to their national objectives so we can count that up. Once we get there, we'll go ahead and place their buildings first, though. So we're going to place the airbase into Schleswig-Mecklenburg there. And the factory we're going to place right here in the Rhineland, which is supposed to be demilitarized. But it's not. And we will slap down those 3 infantry right there in Brandenburg. So, Germany is at an income of 39 IPCs. Let me see if they have any of these national objectives. So we got Lebensraum, +1 IPC for Alsace-Lorraine, Central Poland, Leningrad, Moscow, Montania. They don't control those yet. Atlantic Wall they don't have yet. Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact we get $2 from. So 39, that takes us to 41. Get my money here. Steel purchase from Sweden gives us an extra $3. And then Spain, being at peace, sending us some equipment as well, gives us another $1. So in total, Germany saved a buck, collected 45, so they'll have 46 for their next turn, and that ends the German turn for 1939. 13 rounds to go, 7 turns left in this round. But I think since this is a 15-minute turn, I'll go ahead and probably break this down into shorter segments for video's sake. So I'll go ahead and press pause here and set up Russia. Alright, so we've got the Comintern, or Russia, since they're the only ones in their own alliance. But they do start the game able to be at war, so they are invading Poland and Finland, typically, in the first round. Now, Finland is pretty tough in terms of how many infantry they start with, and neutrals will gain an infantry every other year. They'll be, passively building up their military. So they're not going to fight back, but Germany is going to be able to march into Finland at some point and activate them, turn them into a pro-Axis, or they are pro-Axis, so they'll be able to activate them and turn all those territories Axis. So Russia, of course, wants to mitigate how many IPCs are transferred over to the Axis at that point. So invading Vyborg is a good turn 1 play. But going beyond that is really difficult for Russia, simply because early game Russia's military is pretty weak. But it's not only weak, it's also very out of position to really do anything effectively. So Russia starts with 28 IPCs, that's their income. They're spending everything on 5 infantry, 2 tanks, 1 artillery. And we'll start with our invasion here of Poland. And that'll be 2 infantry and 1 artillery from Belarusia into Wilno. And then we've got the 2 infantry and 1 artillery from Vinnytsia going into Policy there. And that'll be joined by the mobile infantry from Kiev. And the fighter from Moscow will go 1, 2, 3. I didn't have a die set out for that, but that will have 2 movements left since it came from an air base. And then up in Finland, pretty much everything that can reach Vyborg is going into Vyborg. So we've got 1 infantry from Karelia, and then we've got 4 infantry and a tank from Leningrad going into the Vyborg region. So we'll go ahead and get these battles all rolled out and see what comes of it. Alright, so pretty fortuitous rolling for Russia. They were able to take out the 2 Polish territories with no losses. So Poland has been on a roll for absolutely doo-doo rolls, which, historically accurate, but they've been pretty much losing all their territory for free, which is nice for the Comintern and the Axis. But Russia joining Germany with a no-loss Poland invasion so far. And same cannot be said for Finland, where that 1 little infantry that could actually lasted for 2 rounds and got 2 Russian infantry before it went down to that Russian tank. So that 1 IPC from Finland, hard fought for by the Soviets, but captured in the end. So go ahead and do our many non-combat movements here. So Novgorod's going to Leningrad, Tver's going to Pskov, and then that 1 guy from Pskov is going to activate Latvia. So that'll be a roundel, and then I'll turn this guy into not a chip, but a separate Russian dude there. I'll put Russia up to 30 bucks. And then 2 infantry from Moscow are going to go to Smolensk, and the 1 tank will go to Belarusia. And then the fighter will also be landing in Belarusia. And over here, we've got 2 infantry from Kiev moving up to Belarusia, the one guy in Odessa, is going to move in and activate Bessarabia. Bessarabia is part of Romania, but it is the only part of Romania that's pro-Russian, and it is part of a Russian victory objective. So the Russians definitely want to hold on to that. And then over in the Caucasus area, we've got all of our guys pretty much moving west. From Stalingrad, Georgia, Rostov, and the Caucasus, everyone's moving west, getting ready to join the war against Germany that is inevitable. The German Navy isn't going to do anything since it has no real use right now. So Russia's going to go ahead and place their units down. And that'll be 2 infantry and 1 artillery in Leningrad to prepare for the Finnish response, and that being Germany activating them, since they can't really do anything on their own. And then 3 of those infantry are going in Kiev, and 2 tanks will be placed there in Moscow. So a bit better positioning, a little bit stronger military stance from Russia here at the end of their first turn. Still nothing, glorious, but definitely better looking than how they start the game. So, with a base income now of 30 bucks, let's see if they have any national objectives to boast about. We've got the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, not at war with Germany, that gets them 2 bucks. Sphere of Influence, that requires them to control Vyborg, Estonia, Latvia, Wilno, Policy, Stanislavov, and Bessarabia. So they have, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 6. Unfortunately, Stanislavov was taken by the Germans, so they don't get that one. American Lend-Lease, it's too early for the American Lend-Lease to activate, and no surrender also doesn't apply since Germany doesn't have any Russian territories under their control yet. So in total, Russia will be ending their turn with 32 IPCs. And now we'll go ahead and take Poland's turn, and then I believe that will be it for this video. Alright, so Poland starts with an income of 7 IPCs. They'll be spending it all on an infantry and an artillery. And really, they could do probably a couple offensives if they wanted to. And I did fail to mention, by the way, that Russia invading Finland and Poland increased the world tension by another 2 IPCs. And you guys will see how world tension affects the game later on the UK and the US turns, when that starts affecting their economies. But Poland, like I said, they could do a couple offensives if they really wanted to. However, pretty much stacking as much as they can on Warsaw and making it as difficult as possible for Germany to come in and take that is their main goal, as when they capitulate, Poland will actually move their capital to England and continue playing the game. They don't get any income from territories, but if they're capitulated, there is a national objective that gives them a couple bucks every round. So every other round, Poland will be pumping out an infantry in England as, people that are still supporting the war effort from their homeland, escaping the country, as well as spies and whatnot. That's kind of what that is representative of. But really, Poland's got nothing to do except for place their units down here and then collect their 2 bucks. They don't get a national objective since they're not capitulated, and they don't control Danzig, so they don't get the money from the free city of Danzig. So that'll be it for the first video, guys, since this is running a bit long. It's about half an hour-ish so far. But that's the first 3 turns of the first round of Project 39. I will be taking the rest of the turns at later dates and posting these videos regularly so you guys can watch this game through. But this is really a play test of what I think is the final version of the game before it's released to everyone to play. So if you have any comments or questions about the variant, or comments on maybe mistakes that I made that you see, please drop them down below. Let me know what you think. And other than that, I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next video. Cinderman 103, for the first time in a long time, saying peace out.